Hi everyone, and welcome to the PivotBoss Closing Report for February 3rd, 2016. I am Frank Ochoa, aka PivotBoss, with analysis for the week. Here we have a daily time frame of the E-mini S&P 500 futures. We can see here that price rallied early in overnight trading, held just briefly right after the open, and when offered significantly throughout the rest of the morning. The first hour range was significant. Price dropped down here into the 1860s, where you saw price then get uh, basically defended and then respond with a huge rally. We saw a major rally back above 1900, where it closed 1908.50s, and this was a huge pullback. It failed to hold above the previous session's low right here. Price went auction through that area. When price came back, it was defended and a significant sell-off ensued. However, prices developed on lows throughout most of the rest of the session before taking that range bid and seeing a significant rally into the close. So a nice turnaround here. Overall, we continue to be within the range of the key range between 1804 quarter and 2075s. We also have the midpoint at 1939 half. Right now, we've seen a significant amount of volatility here, big wide price range, and that has led to a compression phase here where prices are just kind of coiling back and forth. There's no real edge right now. Once we reached our target at 1939.50, really has been no edge here. We have seen a significant push downward. Now we've seen a recovery over the last day and a half, 2 days. But this looks like it's just back and forth right now until we see expansion out of this range. So be careful here right now. Ideally, if this thing's going to continue to the top of the range, 1939s, look for an overnight pullback or an RTH pullback into 1881s. That could provide a bounce into 1921 and a retest of 1939 half. All right, let's take a look at the intraday time frame. On an intraday basis here, in the PivotBoss Premium Trading Room, we had 1909 and 1885 as the overnight impulse range. When price failed to hold above the high, above those highs right there, we were looking for a pullback toward the middle point of the range. And then once that area just went offered, like it wasn't even there, we switched our idea here that pullbacks to be bought should now be shifted to selling any rallies and looking for a continuation. We had a downside target at 1865 and also an extended target in the 1853s. We got down into 65, and that's where it bounced and held. This 50% expansion target on the key range held finally before this thing rallied. So that was a significant amount of trading range we saw during that session. A lot of great volatility. And for the upcoming day here, we have 1912 as a major level. So 1912 and 1896. That's the zone right there to watch for early directional bias in overnight trading. So above 1912 opens up a move back toward 1939s. Failure to hold above 1896, 1897s suggests a follow through back toward recent lows into the bottom of 5-day value, 1871s, and a retest of those 65s. Let's take a look at crude oil. Here's crude oil on a daily time frame. This is something that's we got a significant reversal. I did not expect this at all, but you can see it in the overnight chart where price came down below the previous session's low price and then flipped back above that zone. Once the crude oil inventories came out, there was a lot of volatility where this thing saw a major squeeze up through 31s. A retest was defended, and this thing continued higher significantly. So this is an outside day buy signal right here, where the low is below the previous session's low and the close is above the high of the previous session. That's an outside day reversal that suggests continued strength ahead. I would say a retest back toward the previous session's high price could be a buying opportunity. So if we're looking back toward about 31.60, that could be an area right there to defend in overnight trading for a continuation higher. So if price pops or drops into that area in overnight trading early in RTH, that could be an area to look to defend for a continuation into 33.43 and a retest of those recent highs at 34.82. Very similar to the ES though, we've seen a lot of volatility here on the way down, and that has led to some range activity here. ES, NQ, CL, they all really look the same right now. They're all kind of piggybacking off of what crude oil has been doing lately. So Right now, there could be more back and forth action within this range. Right now, the clearly established values are 29.25 and 34.82. So basically 29s and 35s. That's the range right now. Once we get outside that range, we'll likely see the next directional move. Let's look at the intraday real quick. Here's the intraday chart. One thing I find very interesting about the intraday is that a few sessions back we had the key range that we drew out right here. 34.82, 32.10 was the key range. Midpoint at 33.46. Price went offered through 32.10 and drops all the way into the overnight low, and that's the 100% expansion target, 29.38. So again, that key range right there led to a 100% move. That was the low in overnight trading. Price pops back up, rallied off of the previous session's low, and rallied way back toward 32.68. So I just wanted to make you know that this key range analysis is very impressive, and the way to do it is very simple, and you usually highlight in very impressive targets, highly accurate targets. So right now, looking at this thing, I'm looking at 32.68. That's a little bit of an LVN here in the 5-day profile. It was previous highs back in this zone, then it was support in this zone. Well, we saw rejection here, which also has big time support, and we saw a move all the way back to this key level. So ideally, what we'd be looking at right now is for any signs of weakness in this zone that could take us back to 31 to 30.68. Any retest of that zone, bulls would want to defend and retry 32.68 with a shot at seeing a move back into 34. So that's kind of the early blueprint of what to look for in overnight trading. 32.68 is the big time level to watch. We closed right at and just above that zone, and that's a major LVN right there. So how price trades and opens the overnight session here, we'll see how that plays out, but it could be very important for early directional buys heading into the upcoming session. Now taking a look at gold, we have gold right here with a big time squeeze through 1130s. We've been talking about how value has shifted higher on a composite basis, and each time it's being defended and rallied, defended and rallied, defended and rallied. So right now, this thing continues to trend higher. We could be coming toward a short-term overbought scenario, but overall, I think where we're headed to is 1164.80 by the end of the month. So right now, that's a primary monthly bull target, is 1164.80. Additionally, breaking through the top of this key range right here suggests a move into the 100% target, which is 1169.30. So that's going to be our zone to target, 1164.80 to 1169.30. That's where I believe price can go here by the end of the month. But ideally, you want price to stay above 1113. So we could see a pullback into that zone, but 1113 needs to be defended for a continuation. Otherwise, below 1113 opens up an auction back down across this range. Okay, taking a look at the NQ. Let's bring that up. Here we are. What we saw here was price fade off the 43.11 halves. That's the 50% expansion target from this key range. So 50% expansion is here. Price rallied into that level and faded right off that zone and dropped. But you can tell whenever we had this tail formed, and I said, look right here, you see this to the left right here, that's where they want to defend. They've continued to defend that zone still. So if I draw like a line, just a general line right here, you can see how many times, 1, 2, 3, 4 times, just generally right there in that area, plus this time that was a little shy. But overall, that's the zone to defend, and it's all coming just above this 40.72, which is a big time level. And every time price gets into that zone, this was the one time they flushed some stops, it popped back above and was defended. Came back toward it, defended. Came back toward it, defended. So right now, this is very important how this plays out. We've seen the big swing move down, and then now we've seen the sideways move here. So short term, I think what could happen is we can get a move back toward the HVN, 42.81. But once price gets into this area, it could get overdone, and we could see a move right back down. And we could continue to build out until confirmed expansion from this range occurs. I'm not sure we're quite at that point here where we're going to see expansion, so look for continued development, look to fade the edges. Looking at the NQ and the intraday time frame, This one also got a push downward from its key range. So here was the overnight key range that we spotted pre-market in the PivotBoss Premium Trading Room. Right here, failed to hold above the top of that range. So we mentioned we could be looking at a move back toward the midpoint of the range. And to watch that zone, once it went offered through that area, it was clear we were looking for expansion. This is the 100% expansion. Held that level, bounced, held that level, bounced. Came back to that level, tried to hold below the previous week's low price. And once the rejection of those prices below that previous week's low occurred, we saw a snapback to the midpoint of the key range, 4184. So that was kind of the pattern of the market today. And you can see about right here, 41.51.5. That's kind of a zone here where it was bid off of it, offered through it, offered and defended, then pushed up back above it and supported. That's going to be the pivot here, 41.51.5. That's going to be the overnight pivot. Failure to hold that level opens up a retest back at 40.91. This has been a heavily bid level. Buyers have defended that level on a higher time frame, big time. When price gets into that zone, you usually see a big return. So watch it very closely if price trades there during RTH. Any squeeze back above 41.91 opens up a return into 42.40. All right, that's it for now. Let's see how this thing plays out the rest of the week. Good luck and trade well.